Hi and welcome to the 64 doors. Today we're going to open door 3. We call this archetype the eternal child because it is the creative innovator. It always has the energy to start something new, and it can feel impatient when it's met with too much resistance or too many structures in the world. Today we're going to look at this archetype from a human design perspective and a gene key perspective. And I want to start with showing you the rave mandala. So right now in the transits, we have the sun in gate 3 and the earth in gate 50, and the design part of the cross is 60 and 56. And we call this cross the right angle cross of laws. What's interesting is that it's actually part of 8 different signs. So usually you have a gate and it's in one astrological sign, but here you can see it's actually both Aries and Taurus. So it together is going to be 8 different signs. It's also interesting to note that the 3 and the 60 are forming a channel between the root center and the sacral center. So the 3rd gate is pointing down with that sacral energy of innovation and playfulness and the pressure to mutate. And then in the 60, we have the limitations and the structures. So together they form the possibility for change, but it's kind of a change that has to happen gradually, and that has to have the right conditions. When we look at it in the circuitry book, it's called a channel of mutation, a design of energy which initiates and fluctuates. It's a pulsing energy, it's a format energy. And the quick reference theme is, whenever you are physically present, there is always a chance of something new coming into the world. The price you pay for this gift is to accept the limitation of not knowing when the next quantum leap will come. So when we speak about the individual circuitry, which is the middle channels in the graph, like you see here, there is always this theme of melancholy in the individual circuitry. So the melancholy here, when we have the pressure to mutate, but we also have the limitations and the having to wait for the right conditions. So the keywords when we look at it is going to be the melancholy about nothing everlasting. You know, that there is a melancholy when there's always this pulse to change, and then it does change, but it doesn't. It's an interesting energy that pulsates. And then there also the feeling of being held back by the rigidity of the physical realm, of not being able to be in that playfulness, in that innovation, in that creativity, but actually having to accept the limitations, which creates a certain restlessness. And the positive attributes are to see the world through the eyes of a child, to say yes to the adventure, to always have the energy to innovate. And let's see what we have more. The keywords: pulse, mutation, newness, internal motivator, playfulness, curiosity, and the pressure to innovate. And also like we saw, it's the individual circuitry. So if we go to the living library, so now we are shifting and we're going into more of the gene key perspective. So far this was the human design. Now we're going into the gene key. So here we see as well the programming partner. So we are looking at the cross still, and we see the 50 that is on the other side of the 3. And we can see in the frequency band, so the gene key is always working in a frequency band where we have a contracted and low energy, and we have a higher energy. So there are 3 words. So the red one is the low one, the blue one is the really high one, and the green one is the pathway. It's the human quality, we could say. The pathway between those 2 polarities. So the lower frequency in those programming partners is chaos and corruption that go together, and then innovation and equilibrium go together, and innocence and harmony go together. So that's always beautiful to look at this part of the cross, which will be as well in the activation sequence for the gene keys. If you're born this week and have the 3 as your life's work, you have 50 as your evolution. When we look into I Ching of it, we see it's water over thunder. And I really like the way that this hexagram is explained. So first of all, the storm can be fierce, yet brings new life. So that's the thing, when we have this innovation all the time, it can look chaotic. It can look like there's no order, but actually it's bringing something new. There is a freshness. There's a little bit of feeling of the first gate here as well, the kind of spark of something fresh and something new. And I also like how, so here we have water over thunder. So when we look at the three frequencies as written out like this, you are going to have the third gene key here. You're going to have devotion. You're going to have water here. You're going to have thunder here. So this third gene key is water over thunder, which is in the low frequency. Chaos is the half-heartedness of agitation. Innovation is the commitment of initiative in the gift frequency, and innocence is the devotion of awakening. So really, it's built up of the water and the thunder, like you see, the water and the thunder, and then we get that geometry. So two trigrams become one hexagram, right? And I was also mentioning the astrology, that we have this combination of Aries, which is the warrior, the pioneer. It's the very individual. And then we go into Taurus, that is the lover, the dancer, the embodied beauty, and fixed earth. So it's very different energy. And we have both those energy inside gate 3. Independence, purpose, flow, and presence. Really beautiful qualities. If we look at integral human design, it's still the channel of mutation. And here we have the keyword. So again, you see the individual circuitry, depression. That's the melancholy again. And then the gift frequency is mutation, something new. And the highest frequency is glory, because when there's not that kind of tension between the 3 and the 60, it's actually glory, because it is that groundedness in the root center, and then the sacral energy just flowing. So creativity and love are keywords as well. And I like the dream arc, the little puffin. That's a super cute animal that is very playful. So that's for sure a keyword. And I don't want to go into the codon ring completely, but it's the codon ring of life and death. So we were in the 42, the cycles of life and death last week, and now we are in the mutation, kind of the start of something new this week. So we're going to also be in the 27, the 24, and the 23, close to now. I feel like that's probably it. Is there any? Yeah, so there are the shadow frequencies. So in the gene keys, when we look at the red frequencies, there are going to be ways that as humans we leave those out. They can either be repressive or they can be reactive. So in this case, the repressive, the passive one is anal, and the reactive one, the active one, you could say, is distorted. So there's always like anger and acting out in the active one, and this is repressing and pressing down. So it can look very different from person to person to be in the shadow of the third gene key. So I guess that's it. And I did write down some questions that I wanted to bring in as possibilities. There are so many questions that you could ask yourself this week that have to do with energy of mutation. Like basically anything that has to do with change could be brought up as a contemplation this week. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself are you pushing or forcing in any areas of your life? Are you clinging to old structures and foundations? And also, what external anchor in your life create the illusion of security for you? So is there maybe a job or house or relationship? And also, what would it look like to release the dependence on that thing? I guess we can also speak about timing, because the third gate has to do with the right condition, the right timing, having the patience to accept the limitations or the structures. So when it comes to your own life, do you have a sense of timing? Especially when it comes to starting something new, because depending on when you start is going to be the right time or not. For example, if you are going to start to have retreats in Corona times, I feel like it's not really the right timing, but maybe, after this is going to be. So it's kind of that sense of it. And you can tap into, what does divine timing mean to you? And also, do you feel like your life has a lot of disorder, or is it chaotic? Those are things to look at this week. And where does that come from? And can you think also about situation when you've been too rigid and you haven't allowed that creativity of the eternal child, and that fearlessness, you could say, of it doesn't matter if something is breaking down. It doesn't matter if something creates disorder, because it's all right, it's all a play. So that's the question, are you playful in your life? And what adventure is calling you? Is there something there that's like tickling you, but you might not have gone into your energy, your cycle of response, and actually let that guide you in the world. So it is, take this down. So I feel like it is a week where we have a lot of possibility for play, a lot of possibility for trying new things, a lot of possibility to still be in the acceptance of the 42 and those life cycles, and not jump into newness before maybe the cycle before has ended, but to start to feel the energy, like what wants to come, what is the next adventure, what is the next play. So I wish everybody a super nice week, and see you next week.